Welcome to the sixth episode of our podcast, Tabletop Game Publishing, The Success Formula. We're your hosts, Pablo, board game designer, and Hersh, CEO of Hero Time. Hersh brings not only exceptional insights into manufacturing, since we are, after all, a board game manufacturer, but also valuable advice on many other aspects of bringing your game to life. Over the next two episodes, we'll be diving into the topic of material quality for game components. We hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember you can visit www.herotime1.com for plenty of useful information.
We have a zero amount of questions here regarding to material quality. Are you okay to talk about this, about different qualities and different stuff that people really question about it?
Yeah, of course. I'll be more than happy to answer any question about materials that I use for board games. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, the first one that comes to my mind is that we mention sometimes when we quote that there's a AAA quality papers and
Correct.
I would say regular. So what's the main difference between them?
Okay, so that's actually a very interesting question because the first thing that people need to know is that every factory will use their own language when it comes to materials. And we at Hero Time, we wanted to make it like very clear for people. So we have the AAA quality paper, and then we have like the regular lower level paper. And game creators can really choose whichever one they want, but they just need to be aware of what exactly it is they're getting. So the AAA stands for actually three metrics of the paper. One of it is brightness or whiteness, how bright and white the paper is, which affects the printing quality. So the whiter the paper, the better the colors come out. Then part number two of it will be the durability of the paper. So how strong is it, right? Like how dense it is. How dense is it? How durable it is. And then the third one is elasticity. Like if you bend it slightly, does it stay bent or does it go back to its form and shape? Okay, so basically it's these three sections, and like brightness wise, if I go dive deeper into each one of them, when we talk about brightness or whiteness, there's no 100% white in the world, but like the best paper will reach 93, 94% bright and white. AAA quality paper, our paper quality is roughly stands on 92%. The low quality paper will stand mostly maybe on 78, between 78.
Okay, so you're saying that having this AAA assure the customer to have this minimum amount of something, like you said, brightness, this number, elasticity, this number. So with the AAA, what you're saying is that, okay, I'm guaranteeing this amount of the value that it makes the
Exactly.
paper quality top notch. Okay.
Yeah, and you know, like a lot of game creators, when you get a game, you probably opened a lot of games. Sometimes it looks like the colors are dyed out, like they're not as vibrant as you see in other games. And you know, it has a lot of reasons behind it, but the paper is one of those reasons that causes the colors to not be as loud as maybe you would like them to be, or as deep as you would like them to be. Yeah, so that's a paper. Do you want me to go down and dive deep into the other two factors?
You mentioned bending, and bending it's quite an issue for. I'm a card game designer, so for me it's everything. So it's like if you bend a car and it will not go back to its original, it means like it's a crappy car. It doesn't. It is not good. Some people says that that's because of the core of the paper that I want to talk about later on that, but. Yeah, you mentioned elasticity, and you also mentioned another one.
Correct. The durability.
Like durability. And what's durability actually?
Durability is how dense the paper is. So we have a 300 GSM paper, right? And the 300 GSM paper, the AAA quality, 300 GSM paper will be 0.32 millimeter thick or 0.31 millimeter thick, right? So then you have other factories that are coming and saying, okay, the 300 GSM paper is equal 0.31 millimeter thick. So if you buy the low quality paper, maybe it will have only 270 GSM to it. but then they don't compress it as much, so the density, the durability of the paper goes down with it. And it's stuff that is so minor. When we buy paper, we're aware of it. But that's how like the paper factory, paper mill makes a paper. They say like you want the cheap one, so you can get the cheap one. It's supposed to be 350 GSM, but it's actually not, or it's supposed to be 300 GSM, but it's actually 270, but it has the same thickness. So the customer thinks it's the same, but it's actually not the same. And if you want to tear the paper, like those papers are a lot easier to tear because they don't have as much material per square like millimeter or half like the very very fine millimeters. Yeah. So that's another big thing. And lastly, like you mentioned, is the elasticity. So how many times can you bend the card? So if you have the thickness of the card also makes a difference, but generally a low quality paper within the first second time when you bend it, it already get the bend. It will not really go back into shape. AAA quality paper will be probably 7, 8, and I'm not talking about bending all the way to the end, right? Because nobody's really trying to destroy their cards. But I'm talking about
Yeah,
like
once
slight bend.
well, there's a limit, like everything. If you push down the limit and you go, there's no turning back. No matter if the quality of the paper, that's not going to be turning back.
No, so that's actually when you have like the blue core, black core kind of concepts of paper, and
Okay.
their elasticity is higher, right? So the blue core is more or less the same like the AA quality white core paper. It doesn't really have that advantage as much. But the black core, obviously you have two types of black cores. You have like the German black core, which is very high elasticity. Like you can bend it 20 times. And you can also bend it all the way and it will come back and form its shape almost. Not 20 times. If you bend it all the way, maybe you will have like 5, 6 times. And that's why black core paper is used for poker houses. Like professional poker houses around the world, they use black core paper. Just because there are no bends and nobody can distinguish. The card keeps its shape very, very well. But then the Chinese, they copied the German black core because the German black core is so expensive. It's like 223,000 RMB per ton. So the Chinese, they copied the German black core paper more or less. Yeah, they weren't able to get the exact characteristics of the black core paper, and it varies a lot. But that is like will give you good like 3, 4 bends. And then it's more elastic than some of them are more elastic than the white core paper, depending on which black core you're getting. And they vary so much, we don't really recommend black core for mass games. You know, like one of the reasons why mass produced games, they don't use black core is because it's inconsistent, right? It's not as consistent as white core. But if you have like a one-off game that you're doing, right? You have a campaign, you're launching it one time, then black core might be a good solution for you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, now that you mention white core, it's a really, really good moment to say, what is white core? Why someone says that it's a triple kind of paper, white core paper, blue core, black core, there are others, but I have 2 questions. One is, what is white core for those people that don't know what it is? And second one, it is good.
So the core of the paper means, the question is, how does it make paper, right? So we have like art paper or printing paper, and that is literally wood raw materials of like the wood leftovers, and they go through the machines and we create from them paper, right? So that's like printing paper where you have the roughness on both sides, like you have a paper feel on both sides. And then we have paper, what we call in Chinese a tongbanje, which meaning coated on both sides. In the US, it will be a silk or a silk text paper, silk or glossy cover paper. You know, like we'll have different terminology, but the idea is it's coated on both sides. So what happens is they make the core paper and then they varnish the sides as much as possible, right? And they press it together and they make it more and more dense. They have like special machines for it. So the middle of the paper, what is the middle of the paper? Right? Above the two layers on the front and bottom that are the varnish ones, the glossy parts, or the silk coated ones, whatever you want to call them. The middle is white, if it's white core, or blue core, or black core, and there is even gray core. Gray core is terrible, by the way, right? So you have
Okay.
different cores, and the core is used for transparency. If you don't want, people don't. The cards are not really transparent. White core is also not really transparent unless your card is completely empty and you look through the light, right? If you're a poker house. If you play a board game and it's on the table and it's
It will
not
not
too
affect
lit,
that much. Yeah.
yeah, it will not affect. Especially if you have good printing on both sides. Yeah.
Okay. So
So
the question is white core, blue core, black core. What are they good? There are goods, right? I mean, a 300 GSM white core is probably better than 200 GSM blue core, I think. Uh,
oh yeah,
or
100%.
what do you think? Okay.
I think, personally speaking, I think the white core is a lot better than blue core on all sides. Like
Okay.
300 GSM white core versus 300 GSM blue core, I will take the white core because the blue core has terrible uh, clarity, like brightness to the paper, like terrible, because it's like the leftover of the papers, we make blue core from them, right? So it's not white at all. It goes down to even like 70% brightness, even lower. So
Okay.
and there's no like high quality blue core. Like the blue core is a cheap version of the Chinese copy of the German black core. So it's like you just rather have white core because the offset of your printing will be a terrible thing. Black core, that's where we can start saying like, okay, yeah, I would like to have black core in my game. Like the color can be a little darker, can be a little like not as vibrant, but still the elasticity will make a big enough difference. The elasticity, the durability will make enough difference between the black and the white. Yes.
And just one question that I have: 350 or 300? Uh, which one do you think is better for board games? I always like that question because uh, everyone says 350, others said no, it's 300. So I don't know. On my game, there were 320 actually. That was the one that I came here to my country. So I don't know which one is best or worst or why using one or the other.
Amazing question. And I was debating this exact same question for quite a bit of time. Personally speaking, I feel like for card games, especially if it's more oriented towards families and like non-gamer families, people that do a little shuffle the game, so they want easier handling for the card. They don't want the card to be so sturdy. So I would go for 300 ESM. You know, um, so it has a little, not really, it's not so durable as 350, but it's easier to handle because it's not so thick. And if you want to bend it, it's easier to bend. But like one time I made this game for this lady, a card game for this lady, and she wanted like white core, and she took the 350 GSM white core, and then she gets a sample, and she's like, I can't shuffle it. I can't shuffle it. What is this card? I can't shuffle. So she couldn't even bend it. She said, I gave it to my husband, who's an expert shuffler. He couldn't bend the card. It's too thick, right? So, but if you're like a hobbyist and you make the game specifically for hobbyists, then they would definitely appreciate like that extra thickness
350.
of card, that 350 GSM, because a lot
I
of them
do.
sleeve. Yeah, you do, right?
Yeah.
Because you're a hobbyist, and then a lot of them sleeve the cards in the sleeve just because they want to protect it. So if you give them like a very durable card, a 350 GSM, they would really appreciate that extra, and it doesn't even cost you that much more, right? Like materials are
Okay.
not that expensive. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and I think that we already covered quality and we covered already white color and all that. There's one thing that it has the cars. I think it's really interesting to mention the options, and there's two options that sounds similar. I mean, once you have everything printed, you need to protect that. printing stuff. So you have varnish processes, or you can laminate. There are, those, well, you have a video about it, and I think it's amazing. I will put the link on this podcast to that
Yeah,
video because I think it's great. Great. I mean, it's one of the most viewed videos in our channel. So maybe we can do another one in the future. But for now, it's great. I will put the link there. But the when someone quote on the company, you can get a quote that it's a poker varnish. Oh, sorry, poker oil and varnish.
Yes.
And
And
that's
oil varnish.
where I mess up a little bit, because they're both varnish. So what does it mean, those two?
First of all, very good question. I'll give you two components, like the tokens, the token sheets, right, or the player boards, and not the foldable ones, the regular like individual player boards. For those, we will use the oil varnish. For cards, we will use the poker oil. The poker oil is a thin layer that protects the ink very, very well, and it's two-sided coating at the same time. So it coats one card at the same time together, front and back. So for cards and ink, in my opinion, that's the best, and it's also kind of that semi-gloss that people are wanting, right? I don't know if you heard like varnish gloss, semi-gloss, is that poker oil, is that semi-gloss, and it's special for card handling. So if you rub two cards against one another, that poker oil will be a better flow. It will feel better when you rub the two cards against each other, or when you have a whole deck that you're holding. Right? You don't want it to be too slippery.
You fit it smoother, right?
It's a lot
like
smoother.
a software.
Yeah, it's a lot smoother.
Soft surface.
It's a softer coating than the oil varnish. And because it's thinner and it protects the ink of the card very, very well. And there are no lines because it goes back and front, the front and back of the card together. So we will use for that the poker oil. Also, the machine for it is very different. So the machine for the poker oil is like 25 meters long. So in feet, it's like, what is it? In feet, it's like 70 feet.
Meter is okay. You're talking meters, I'm talking meter. But for those that don't know, that's 25 by 3. We're talking about 70 feet away.
Yes.
That's huge. I mean,
so it gets dried and applied very slowly.
For the drying.
For the drying and the application of it, it's like very, very soft. But then the one for the oil varnish for the tokens or for the individual player boards, for them, you don't really need to handle them, so you can afford to have a thicker layer of oil on top of it. And in that thicker layer of oil, we use a different machine completely. So it has like very hot oven heater. It's 9 meters long, so it's like 27 feet long. And you put it in the machine, and you have like this very hot oven that dries it out almost automatically, like almost crispy, right? And that's why it's perfect for actually player boards and token sheets that also get handled a lot, right? So you hold them with your hands, you put them on the table, you maybe drag them. So it's really good for protecting the ink. And that machine is one-sided. So usually for cards, we will always opt for the poker oil. And then for the regular ones, for the token sheets and player boards, we will opt for oil varnish. However, like you can also do, if you want, you can also do oil varnish for the cards, but there's no, depending how many cards you do, right? So if you do, it just doubles the price and lowers the value and quality of the cards that you get. Then we have three more that you did not mention, which is lamination. So we have like a glossy lamination, matte lamination, and then we have like premium lamination. So lamination is a very thin layer of film, plastic, that gets applied in very high heats onto the paper to protect the print. Now, this is extremely, extremely durable, right? So this is like the highest level of protection. However, there are few limitations. Because of the electrical statics that it has, it will not shuffle at all if you use it for cards. But then some people that maybe make their game for schools, right? So their game is designed for a classroom. So they really want to protect the card.
Or I will add another one for drinking games. They had to be laminated.
Yes.
Party
For
games
drinking games, we
overall,
will
party
absolutely probably
games.
will use PVC cards. Yeah. If it's like a drinking, heavy drinking game, we might even use yeah, we might even use PVC cards. But yeah, for drinking games, stuff that they're more prone to wear and tear. You don't play them in a closed environment. So maybe you would want to use lamination for them. However, it's more expensive because you cannot cut the lamination card with the automatic machine because of the layer of lamination that makes it difficult to cut the card. So so it's like more manual cutting, manual collating, and so forth and so on. So for the cards, it's not so recommended. For token sheets and player boards, we also don't really recommend it because when you cut it with a stamp, you know, like it doesn't happen. But we need to be extremely careful that it punched out properly. Sometimes how you get a token sheet that doesn't punch out properly and then it tears the paper a little bit. So that can be caused either because they did lamination or maybe because their cutting was just bad. Um, but we use lamination
Sometimes
for
there's also another problem on cutting laminated stuff is that you see on the edges, you see a little bit of the plastic that it's tearing, like a small part of chop things. That's also
that would
one
be
thing that
very
it really
cheap
bothers.
lamination.
I get a lot of games from a lot of manufacturers that actually have that problem.
Oh, I don't think I've seen this problem for me. But
I
we
bought a
don't
game
laminate
last
either.
week.
We
I
rarely
bought a
laminate.
game last week and it was with that problem. When it opened, it was like, oh, this is crap. I fixed it with a lighter. That's it. But yeah, it was there was a problem there.
Well, we don't. That's why maybe we don't really laminate it, right? Because we don't really recommend it. So, and there's no mistake
Lamination
because
on
our system's
boxes,
automatic.
yes. On the
Lamination
other
of
hand,
boxes is a
lamination on
mandatory.
boxes,
It's
yes, it's a
100%
must.
mandatory. And on foldable game boards. Yeah, foldable game
Okay.
boards and boxes, both of them have to have lamination. Um, Obviously you can choose, like I said, you can choose between like a matte lamination if it's a hobbyist or glossy lamination if you want it to really be loud for children, but then maybe not for the foldable game board because of the light reflection. Yeah. And then if your box is like very black, so you would want a premium anti-scratch lamination because on a black surface, if your box is pure black, it's the markings and the stretch marks or scratch marks are very easily you can see it very easily. So we'd usually use like an anti-scratch lamination for it, which is
Okay.
over double the price of regular lamination. Yeah.
Okay, well, in this sixth episode, we cover everything related to cars. We even go a little further, talking about protection processes like lamination and varnish. In the next episode, we will cover in cardboard, wood, and plastic. We will talk about all the properties and quality specification of those. So remember to follow us and subscribe. Thank you so much for hearing this, and see you next week.